All right. So after looking at the interview between what I believe, let me check the names here one more time. What I believe to be pretty much uh, Tony Penterwinkle and Susanna Mendonza. I have a few thoughts concerning about it, mainly with the fact that, for one thing, they both kind of reference their past. More specifically, I believe on Susan Mendana. And I believe that the problem with that is that they've already been in the what is some considered to be the political machine, in which, sorry, in which one is considerably corrupted or one is considerably uh, turned because of certain experiences. It's just like you have to pretty much pay a loan to a donator. And let's look at the interview itself. Let's pull it up. Here we go. Oh, for crying out loud. Sorry. Uh, no, anyway, yes, it's dates for apparently. I'm sincerely sorry. I'll probably have to edit this out. Here we go. My bad. I'm so terribly sorry. This computer is just really, really bad. And what I just find very, very interesting about this interview from what I'm seeing is that apparently, despite the fact that they are extremely fully grown adults, the problem is that they kind of mock themselves, believing that they're kind of somewhat better than each other, which, to be fair, if you're going for different views, political argument, I mean, this isn't the first time that's ever happened. This occurs extremely over and over and over again. So, and I don't see absolutely no reason why this actually wouldn't happen, which is why I personally believe the People's Assembly, my class and I are trying to do, is somewhat of an improvement. Because for one thing, because like I said, one of the candidates are pretty much like referencing their times as a child, pretty much living within certain states of life where they have to pretty much deal with pretty much like the political issues of those time. Pretty much, our candidate. Mendonza specifically. And what if I and what I find is just okay. And I believe what should happen, why this People's Assembly should work for my class, is mainly due to the fact that this is for Mendoza. Yes, she does have very specific memories of them, but she isn't necessarily living within it. Personally, if I were with her, I wouldn't necessarily be mocking my own my opposer or my fighter. What's it called? Like I wouldn't like in other words, I wouldn't necessarily the person who's just trying to pretty much create, because both people are trying to pretty much find a better solution to both things. All right, but I mean I don't necessarily think there's like a right or wrong with these two people. Yet they see each other as the antagonists. And how the Students' People Assembly will become better with that is pretty much with the fact that that for students they don't necessarily have an enemy, or not necessarily don't have an enemy, but rather we aren't necessarily grown into that mentality that there is an enemy, that there is another. Because though if I would ask these two candidates if they have the other, they would probably say no. And personally, I wouldn't necessarily believe it because like they see the other as well, the different side of the candidate. It's not just like I don't see when people talk about the other. I don't necessarily think of, oh well, it's pretty much, this group of people that are the other. I wouldn't necessarily call the other pretty much just how people would view an antagonist. And for this political candidate, I see all around multiple political battles, that they always view themselves as the good, and the other candidate as well, the other of some sorts. Correct me if, no, I might be completely wrong on this. This is just my opinions. I just personally see it as if it's just struggling through throat, and this is especially prominent within this case. And I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't necessarily believe that this will exactly happen in the People's Assembly. GCE is trying to accomplish, mainly because like for the ones who are organizing this, GC is trying to make sure there's a little bit more tolerance within the other side. Granted, and considering that we're already teenagers and even we do not necessarily act out like this because those two are kind of acting out in somewhat of a childish way, I just find it extremely interesting. And yes, that's why I personally believe it is that the GCE's People's Assembly might become better, or not better, but necessarily, but rather, actually yes, more efficient, like area for debate compared to the area of the teachers union or of pretty much any other union, because despite the fact that they pretty much have some of them are pretty much fighting for rights in order to pretty much for children, such as the teachers union, or rather, I mean more specifically for themselves and some for the children. They don't seem to recognize, or they don't seem to pretty much intervene when the fact that people are somewhat acting as if they were children. And yes, those are my thoughts.